Yep. Okay. Welcome everybody to Talking Niagara with me, Peter Giblett, and him, Dave Wheeler, who's coming, right? So this is your morning news podcast, talking it really in a talk show format, covering the items that matter to Niagara Falls. It's Monday, July 28th, and few things this morning, but let's start with a bit of good news. Well, at least good news from my perspective. Hey, you always keep looking after the old country, right? Well, in the European nations, Women's European Nations Cup final 2025, Euro 2025 women's, England beat Spain 3-1 on penalties at the end of the game. They were 1-1 tied, and then England won the penalty shootout.
Good show, girls.
Which is something
ladies. I guess we got to call them ladies.
Yep, you'll never see that with the England men, because it's like bet your shirt against England if it comes to penalty shootouts with men.
Not so good at it.
Although they did change that a little while ago. Yeah, so good to see the ladies win there. And it's the second successive time they've defeated Spain in the Euro final.
Okay.
So clearly England and Spain are the two best teams in Europe when it comes to women's soccer.
Yeah, but the U.S. still holds dominance, don't they? Overall,
actually, the last World Cup was also England-Spain in the final.
Oh, really?
And Spain beat England on that occasion.
Well, all right. Well, time to resurrect Francis Drake and go to war.
There you go. Yeah,
Francine Drake.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, absolutely. Great to see that. And hey, good luck to everybody. In whatever competition you're taking place. Hey, so there's a movement out there, Dave, that's saying that the World Cup that's co-hosted by Mexico, US, and Canada, they should pull out of all of the US competitions because of immigration status issues.
No, I'm always against punishing athletes for their government's work.
Yeah, but that's not the US team will stay in the competition. It's just the competition. The US games will get spread between Mexico and Canada.
I don't think that's a good idea. I don't. Very much so, because I like to remove sports from the political arena, and too often it's used for that.
Yeah, I get it. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, we had two Olympics practically ruined when.
Oh, I know.
Reagan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reagan boycotted Moscow, and then the Russians boycotted Los Angeles.
Yes. It amounts to look, you have athletes that have worked their entire life for a particular time and
one
purpose.
Event. Yeah.
Yes.
And you want to beat the best in the world, not be champion because the best didn't show up.
Yeah. We boycotted South Africa from athletic events for years and years. All that did was isolate them more.
Yeah.
When the athletes come out and they're exposed to all kinds of different ideas, whatever. But let's face it. If you are in a country, let's say you were in Iran or even Israel right now, because Israel might get boycotted. But say if you were in Iran and your athletes are boycotted and they've worked really hard to get where they are. They may or may not have a political bone in their body, but it's beyond their ability to change geopolitics.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I know.
And remember, it's the athletes we are zeroing in on, not the politics. We can get as mad as we want at politics, but even Israel right now was I think is acting like a criminal state with their thing in Gaza. I would not even boycott them because the athletes are the ones that have done it. So when you go around punishing, you try to punish a country by punishing its people. I don't think it works, for one thing. And for another thing, this is athletics. It's not politics.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's why I said I can understand the movement against why because of immigration issues, people don't want to be heading to the US to see the Men's World Cup next year. But but that's where it has been put, and obviously not saying, I don't know. I have some sympathy to removing the US from the not from the competition, but removing the US stadia from the event.
No, remember, half of the people in the United States did not vote for Trump. And why?
Yeah.
Why punish them from sports entertainment they truly love?
Yeah.
To me, it just, why do you want collective punishment?
Yeah.
And no, what is happening in Washington is not a total reflection of what's going on. And you might have one athlete, a mega guy, and you might get another guy, a progressive guy. Who cares? Right?
Well, they don't care, because so long as they can, one of those guys will pass to the other guy because they can rely upon them to make a pass and score the goal.
Precisely.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Salami salmonella outbreak growing. That's an odd one to say, isn't it? Salami salmonella.
Salami salmonella, yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like
tongue twister.
Well, it also sounds like a Middle East name too, doesn't it? Like it.
Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Sultan Salami Salamella.
Well, salmonella is actually an odd. It's a really awkward word to say, and especially doing it quickly. So basically, stores are recalling salmonella that's been making people sick across Canada. One more person became ill in Alberta. This adds to the growing number who've become sick in 4 provinces. So 87 cases in BC, 68 in Alberta, 1 in Manitoba, and 17 in Ontario currently.
Yeah, I also, just as an aside here, Mike Cushman has sent us the article in the Pointer.
I'd forgotten about the Pointer. Yes.
Yeah. So I think we should talk about it tomorrow.
Let's do that. Let's do the Pointer article tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, we'll deal with the Pointer tomorrow.
Morning, Mike. Yeah.
Morning, Mike. Yeah.
We'll read off the Pointer. Has a great photograph. I hope it's not just a file photograph. It's just anyway. So Mike's efforts are gleaning some results, at least with the Pointer, and I hope the message gets out. Yeah. But aside, we'll talk about that more tomorrow.
So I don't know how they would even know that this salmonella outbreak came from salami.
Well, they're probably able to trace it back to where salami is produced. Now, there's a variety of different brands, but that doesn't mean anything, because it's some places will package and make it for any number of brands. And if you look at the article, and I suggest that probably we should post it on our place here, because in case anybody happens to be shopping and wants some salami, they should know the different brands to watch out for. Now, they're recalling all of this stuff, but there's probably stuff that's going to leak through. Obviously, they've identified there's salmonella. They know where it's come from, and they know the different brands that this salami is sold in different places, including Ontario.
All right, I'm putting the link down here, down in the comments down now.
Yeah, it's disconcerting because salmonella, it can be pretty dangerous, and why even how this even happens in a modern day system, I don't know. We remember that Maple Leaf Foods had a major problem for a long time once, and they were upfront about it. Yes, we have these problems, and what it turned out to be is because their machines were not being cleaned thoroughly enough.
Yeah,
and they admitted it straight out and went to go after it. There was no big denial, no this or that.
I think that's basically the way that most food companies need to approach it, in order, be upfront about it when it's occurred, because things like accidents do happen, and that's the best approach, because otherwise I'd have a trust for you more if you actually say, hey, we fucked up,
Yeah, and that's what happened with Maple Leaf Foods. They had to shut down for a while. There was actually a shortage for a little while. They shut down and did a thorough cleaning.
They did, yeah, and I know they did. And the thing that surprises me about salami, though, is salami is a food that takes some time. It's like a cheese. It takes some time to ferment, etc., to get to the state where it's a salami. It's not, it's processed, if you know what I mean.
You need Dominic Caruso here to tell us about that. He prepares meats of all kinds. I bet you he knows all about it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I wasn't so sure how you could get salmonella in salami.
I don't know, but it is there. It is there, and the details of which I don't know. I don't know.
Because to my understanding, salami is largely smoked, isn't it?
I'm not sure. You got me there, because I don't know how salami is manufactured. All I know is every once in a while I'll get some, and there's some really nice brands of salami out there, but it's expensive, and it's sort of pretty much dropped off my diet unless I have people over or something like that, which is rare anyway if family comes over. So I don't know how it's produced or whatever. Like, you need an expert, like I said, like a guy like Dominic Caruso could probably tell you right down to the minutia of details.
Because my understanding is that it's a smoke. At least it's smoked to some extent.
I don't know. We could look it up quickly.
Yeah.
Is salami? It's cured. Yes, it says here some salami is smoked, while other types are not. Salami is a type of cured sausage, and the curing process can involve air drying, salting, and or smoking. Some traditional salami varieties are dry cured and not smoked, while others are smoked for flavor and preservation.
Yeah. So there you go. That's exactly what I understood. Never had salami, but that's exactly what I understood about it. As a vegetarian, of course, I wouldn't eat salami, but that's why it surprises me that salmonella would be in the process, because if it's dried, fermented, dried, fermented, or what do you call it, or
Smoked.
smoked, it rarely gets salmonella.
Yeah, I would think the process by which they describe here would kind of discourage salmonella, but we don't know how it got in. And
Yep, we don't. Probably shortcutting the process, not taking the right amount of time, most likely, I would think.
something got mixed up. Yeah, something got introduced, and I don't know, salmonella in salami. 60
Just
plus
seems good to me.
salami and cacciatore products being recalled in Canada due to salmonella risk.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. There's anyway in,
there's
in
a large list. There's a large list in the article. So if you want to see the list, go and read the article. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. There was a pair of people rescued outside near Fort Erie when their boat caught fire. That's pretty. The picture of that boat must have been after they were rescued, but that's pretty nasty fire.
Yeah, once the gasoline gets going, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
it's pretty hard to hold it back. I expect that they had a gas leak somehow. They had a gas leak, and of course, you have batteries with cables that cause sparks. So anyone who's owned a boat, and I owned a boat for 30 years or more, and you that's one of the things you have to worry about. So you have to be careful with your gas tanks, or if you have a gas tank. So obviously they've had. I expect it was electric spark plus leaked gas got it. There was fumes built up. There's a place where you put your tanks, and sometimes they fill up with fumes, and they're the things that will ignite very quickly. Yeah. So you have to make sure everything is well vented. There is no description of how this happened. No. Right? But the fact of the matter is
the rescue was basically jointly by Fort Erie Fire Department and U.S. Coast Guard at 7:40 a.m. on last Wednesday.
Yeah, this was a really good coordinated rescue.
Well, you can't mess around. Yeah, you can't mess around when it comes to people's lives on a thing like this, right? They were 800 meters from the international border, but again, none of that matters.
No, as soon as somebody's in trouble, it's wide open. Let's get there. So the Fort Erie Department, even the Buffalo Fire Department has boat, at least one boat, and they're involved too. So this is a good. I mean, the fact that nobody was killed or anything, and these people happened to be rescued, is a big deal. And remember, this thing could have exploded too. So these guys that are going out there to rescue these people, it could be a dangerous thing for them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And, so we have this coordinated effort where the Coast Guard station at Buffalo, the Buffalo Fire Department, and the Fort Erie Fire Department work jointly. It looks like the heavy lifting was done by the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
They had more equipment and got there quicker.
They could probably get there by helicopter and rescue the people.
I don't think they used a helicopter because they were only 800 meters away. So they probably just got their boat and ripped out there.
Probably. Yeah, possibly. Yeah. That's one. Yeah. We don't really know. Yeah.
And we don't know where they were stationed at the time. So they're out there somewhere on patrol. And so anyway, they got there, and it's now the real problem here is we're going to be charged tariffs for the rescue.
Sorry. Yeah, that had to come, didn't it? That had to come. Yeah.
Right. I know it was cheap, but I had to put it in there.
That had to come. Yeah. Okay. Saskatchewan, Ontario, and Alberta have actually reached an agreement to build new energy and trade infrastructure.
Long overdue. I read this article and I'm thinking to myself, There's been calls for this for years and years and years and years.
I've got one problem though.
What is that?
What about Manitoba? They're smack in the middle there, in between these three. Now.
Well,
these three.
The resources that we're talking about were not Manitoba resources, but Manitoba is included.
Well, they need to move it across Manitoba, whichever way they're doing it, right?
Yeah, it has to go across Manitoba. Remember, Manitoba and Saskatchewan, they're going to open up a deep water port in Hudson Bay or James Bay. I think it's Hudson Bay. So all the Canadian provinces have really come to the conclusion, which they should have years ago, that putting up trade barriers between one another was just dumb. And they let it go for so long. And I got to thank Donald J. Trump, because if he didn't light a fire under us, we wouldn't have done this. It would have been always pushed back to the back burner constantly.
Yeah.
And now we're a nation again. Now we're a nation. We're looking out to help one another. We're coordinating our efforts. And the Michigan government has, like, our oil pipelines go through Michigan as a shortcut into Ontario. And year after year, the Michigan government has threatened to shut off that pipeline for different reasons. I don't know. It doesn't go into it. Maybe environmental, maybe other, whatever. How much money they're being paid to carry that. Yeah. Doug Ford puts it out, even though we're in very friendly terms with Michigan, we are now at risk of having our oil shut off to Southern Ontario, which would be terribly injurious to our economy. So we have to build one that goes over the top of Lake Superior. We have to go the long way, but we have to go to a way that makes sure that we get it there and cannot be used against us. It cannot be weaponized. All of this is coming out. Everybody's joining in. Everyone's looking at the regulations. And as Carney has said, it's not like, should we do it? Or it's like when or how. It's like, it's how are we going to do it? Not getting all balled up in regulations, like when can we possibly get it done, that kind of thing, which was the previous government had all kinds of mind-boggling regulations that stifled industry. And when Trudeau was asked about that, he just kind of shrugged his shoulders, which tells me, oh man, I mean, you've got all the money you need. You don't need that job in the mine. You don't need that job in the pipeline. You're not a roughneck out west. You're not a guy in a car industry. You just say, oh, pollution's bad, and we have all these we have excessive environmental and other regulations. And basically what we're doing is reducing that. And so I do. It was not Donald J. Trump intent to unify us and to start thinking about one another. And we said this on the show even a year ago, that I was really annoyed at how Ottawa treated the Western provinces, particularly Alberta and Saskatchewan. And we said it over and over here, like, why are you doing that to them? Why are you putting so much pressure on them? Like, you want your environmental kudos and all that other stuff at the UN, say, okay, we've dropped our emissions, aren't we good? Then Alberta will point out, yeah, you're going to drop your emissions, but that only means you drop production, which means you have to bring in the oil from somewhere else. So I'm very glad that more practical ideas are coming to the surface.
Yeah.
In order to have a good, solid democracy, you have to have a healthy middle class. That healthy middle class depends on economic fortitude of your country. And that is the number one thing you should look at, is the economy.
Yeah, and we paying out.
How well is it serving the Canadian citizen?
Yeah, and we're paying our workers less than we seemingly ever did.
We're paying them less, and we are restricting the abilities for them to find places to work in mines, in oil fields, and all that.
Yeah.
All of that will be replaced. The oil fields will be replaced sooner or later, because if you ever look at it, like in China right now, they're cleaning up their skies very quickly because of the amount of EVs they're using. They're also drilling for their own oil, by the way. But aside from that, they are.
That was inevitable.
Yeah. So
we know it existed. We know it existed. It's inevitable they were drilling for their own oil. Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
So whenever, and particularly China does not want to be hamstrung by the need for energy.
Yeah.
So it's going to find alternatives. That's why the newest thorium reactors and the advances in fusion technology to produce power are being accelerated in China, while here we argue and bicker over stupid stuff and it never gets off the ground.
Yeah.
Because they're an authoritative government, that's bad in most ways. But one thing that is an advantage is that they can just pour resources into a project and just do it. And
absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're still bickering about it. Yeah, exactly right. But again, the problem is that if President Xi thinks it's good, then it's good, even if it's bad.
Yes. Basically, they have a long-term look at the economy way down the road. And unfortunately, we don't do that kind of planning. We do the kind of planning of the next 4 years, the next couple of months.
Yeah, I know. We should be looking more
in years gone by.
Yeah.
Yeah. In years gone by,
go on.
In years gone by, a big company would look 30 years down the road.
Yeah.
Start to plan that way.
Yeah.
Nowadays they look 4 months down the road for the dividends. So the idea, and we talk even about say something as simple as the city of Niagara Falls having a long-term plan and what they plan to do. Multiply that by 1 million and you get what China does.
Yeah.
They're looking at every single little thing that may affect the economy. They are working, the 100 years of humiliation stings them every time. It's never been forgotten in China when the West dominated them so bad, including bringing in cargo loads of opium to make an addicted population so that they could make mass money. China's never forgotten that. It does not never want to get into that situation again. So that's why it's still kind of an isolated country, but that's why China makes practical decisions like we cannot get to where we're going without using capitalism. So we'll have state-run capitalism.
But again, look at, and it's an Eastern thing rather than a Western thing primarily. The oldest company in the world comes from Japan. It's Kongo Gumi, who's a construction company that, believe it or not, was started 100 years after the fall of the Roman Empire. That's how old that is.
Well, yeah, they have deep and long traditions. But remember, Japan was very isolated. It could stay isolated. It beat off every attempt to break its island with its famous samurai warriors, came face to face with the mighty Mongols and defeated them twice.
Yeah. And even when it comes to many other things, for example, Zanken Gensen Kakengasa Shinodoya
I think you pronounced that wrong.
I did the best I could. It's a hotel that's been around. It's been around for 1,300 years as well, right?
Yes.
1,300
My
years.
point is, yeah, they have a long tradition, but
Yeah.
Japan was an isolated country, so they could do that
Yeah.
until Commodore Perry went there with the United States Navy one day and said, "You're going to open this up because you can't. You've tried to isolate yourself." They back in the early 1700s, the Japanese eliminated firearms. They were making some of the best firearms in the world once they learned learned them from the Dutch, I think it was. And when they realized that the firearms was the great leveler, that a peasant with a gun could take out a fully trained samurai, they decided to eliminate guns. But what that did was put them technologically back. And when Commodore Perry shows up, I think it was in the 1860s, and said, "Look, you're going to open up or else." That was a big lesson for the Japanese, and they've modernized ever since. The Chinese took a little bit longer. Their country was in bad shape, mostly because of European powers making a mess of it. But my whole point here is the Japanese have decided to use state-run capitalism to advance their power, and they have drive because of the 100 years of humiliation and what happened to China, all the stress and distress. They will never forget that, and that is still driving them in the back of their mind. They will never be in second place again. And we found that when Trump tried to use tariffs against them, pretty much an embargo them with 145% tariffs, the Chinese says, "Well, no." And he says, you want this fixed? You got to phone me. Well, they didn't phone, did they?
No.
They didn't phone at all.
No.
And then finally, Trump had to say, "Okay, tell you what, we'll go and meet in Switzerland, and Bessent, you go to Switzerland and pretend you bumped into the Chinese envoy there and made an arrangement for a talk." It was all a setup. So that worked with Europe, obviously. It's worked with Japan, but it cannot work with China.
Yeah.
And part of that reason is the long extended. Now, China's got scads of problems and whatever else. And it was the West that allowed this to get out of hand, because the Western investors were making massive amounts of money by working with China. And now you want to turn around and punish China for doing what they told you they were going to do. So I don't know. But anyway, the whole idea is they have a long plan. And
we need to have longer plans than we do, right? Well, there is, for example, in City Hall, they have a 2050 plan, right? So we've got a
that's what I mentioned just
plan.
earlier.
Yeah. And that basically, that's laudable, but it's not enough.
Well, for the city, it's probably fine. But for a nation like Canada, you have to have a very long.
I don't even know that Canada has a 25-year plan, does it?
They may have something, but they should have one, and they should have get economists and all the others to project what the world's going to need, and demographics of the world, what's going to happen. AI is going to be the hugest thing of all time. I'll give you an idea. My son told me yesterday that he's a guitarist, and he's been in a few bands, and he's written some songs. So what he did, he wrote a song based on a story that he had read. So he went to AI and he told them to write a story or write a song based on this story. And within minutes, they came up with a song with rhyming verses and a melody and everything.
Well,
where
AI
he
is
took
getting
he
AI.
took a very long time to write the song. AI did it at a snap of a finger. So
Yeah, AI is getting better.
if you can extrapolate after that of AI getting into engineering, AI getting into cellular, all kinds of different things, because AI can access sophisticated AI can access the world's knowledge on any particular subject, and then begin to make help direct
Well,
where
and
the next.
the interesting thing about it is that you can actually mold AI to your way of thinking. You know, you have probably put out things like you probably put out Facebook posts, and you put out various things. You do searches in a particular way. You're looking for things on out in the world on a particular way, and then you ask AI a question, and it molds it according to what your mode of thought.
Yes, but anyway, aside from that, and getting back to what we're doing here is
Yeah, it's infrastructure.
so,
Yeah,
yeah. So the reason why we got sidetracked there a bit, because we are now doing the planning. We are now looking into the
we have
future.
to.
We
We
are
have
now joining hands. Instead of bickering about little things, we see the need of how vulnerable we were.
Yeah.
Finally, someone in this case, Carney, and you may have problems with Carney everywhere around, but he's working very well with the other premiers, not like Trudeau had before, who
Yeah.
agitated the West. And the previous West, they just say this, and like this is a unified country now. And
Yeah.
we've said on this show many times that we don't like how Ottawa treated the West.
Yeah.
And
the fact that Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario are building an accord is a good thing.
yes, this and we have to continue along that way.
Yeah.
We have to.
And then
Right from Newfoundland to BC, right from Ellesmere Island, right down to Point Pelee. This is our nation. This is what we had. These are the we have to build a nation economically, because economics is the most important thing. Because if you do not have the wherewithal, if you do not have the money, if you're always constantly stressed out about where the next dollar is coming from, how do you then engage in other things? How then do you look at the environmental situation and have time to seriously look at it, and how we can advance environmental needs while at the same time advancing our economy?
Yeah.
You cannot have one without the other.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Speed cameras are being vandalized in Toronto as well as here. A lot of people are going for these speed cameras. Police are saying that many of the speed cameras are actually helping reduce speeding in the city, but again, they're becoming a target.
Unfortunately, yeah, they're being vandalized. Now, I can understand why people vandalize them, because I don't like that Big Brother thing going on. All these cameras looking at me here, there, and everywhere. But it's inevitable, and I'm just going to have to get used to it. But the fact of the matter is, you cannot deny the results. When these cameras go up, particularly around schools or hospitals or things like that, traffic studies have shown that speed has slowed down, like drivers slow down.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody's so agitated, and I got to get there, and all that. And they forget the responsibilities, particularly around schools.
Yeah.
And when I got my ticket from the camera, it was close to a school zone. There was no students or kids anywhere there. There was none lined up to go across the road with a crossing guard or anything like that. But it was close enough to the school time that the camera was still enacted, and so I got and I was just going to the pace of the rest of the traffic around there. But it was a good reminder for me too. Just because there was no kids around, and I'm always very careful around school zones, and I didn't see any kids at all. So if I had, I would have slowed down. But the idea is I don't have to slow down if I remember I'm going to get dinged.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. But the danger, of course, is with some of these speed cameras when they're in a fixed position, is people flying along, coming to a screeching halt, and then flying along again.
Yeah, I noticed that for the first little while when that camera that dinged me happened. But ever since then, when people are driving down that road, they drive more conservatively all the time now.
Yeah.
So it's done its job. However, people get really frustrated and annoyed at it and damage them. And I know I get angry at them too before I even got dinged. But and I really don't like cameras on us all over the place. I really feel that you're in a little cage where everybody can watch you.
Mm.
But you cannot deny the effectiveness of this. It has slowed down traffic in vulnerable areas where there are children, where there are hospitals, that kind of thing. So I'm, as much as I dislike it, I'm just going to have to say it's necessary. If it's going to save a life, then,
I think in school zone, I like the idea in school zones. I'm not so sure, let's put it this way, that in England, these speed cameras have existed for a long time, at least 15 years before I came to Canada. We're quite behind the times in comparison to England. But again, I've always thought that we didn't have them here because somebody had done some legal research and found that, automated machines weren't catching the people.
Well, basically, I think it's a cost thing. You see how expensive a police officer is. Look at the cars they drive.
Oh, I know.
Right?
Yeah, that's another matter. That's another matter entirely. We need the beat cop back on the beat.
Well, yeah,
that's
what I meant was, it takes a lot of money to put a cop there.
I know.
To put up as soon as you see a cop, of course, you slow down. Well, this is doing exactly the same thing, and it doesn't take up the resources of a police officer.
Yeah,
with their big expensive car.
But it needs to be absolutely every one of these speed cameras needs to be. There needs to be yellow and black signs in ahead of it. And so long as we've got all of that, that's fine.
I don't know. I think my thing is, as much as they annoy me, as much as I dislike having cameras on me all the time, this has gleaned results. People are slowing down.
Yeah, at the end of the day, one of the things they found in the UK is CCTV has been around for like 40 years, 40 to 50 years in the UK. And they have found that it actually reduces crime, generally speaking. Not just speed cameras, but CCTV. And they're not monitoring people and what they shouldn't be doing. They're looking purely for crime. That's all they're looking for, right? You having a dirty affair with Mrs. Jones at number 52, they don't care about that.
Oh, wow. There's a little bit of blackmail opportunity there, isn't it? You could leak that to your buddy and say, look, here's some money we could make. Hello, Mrs. Jones. Here's a picture that I found. But anyway, what do we got next?
Yeah. Okay. So moving on. Yeah. Okay. Ford government is being forced to release the Eglinton LRT Ontario line emails.
Now,
Ford doesn't like it.
No, Doug does not approve of this. I wonder why. Right. Now,
well,
go ahead.
Yeah. The wonder why. Yeah. The thing is that this is a few years old now. This has basically been going on for at least 2 years. Global News has been trying to obtain emails between former Metrolink CEO Phil Verster and Doug Ford's chief of staff Patrick Sackville using FOI laws. All right, and they've been denied these emails.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
So the resistance that the Ford government had against releasing these emails and resisting the freedom of information was said there were sensitive details in there that could affect the economy, and it could affect the bidding process. It could affect contracting and all that. The Auditor General has looked into it and said, well, there's some things here, this page or that page, but the rest of it can be released. Basically, what it is the LRT. LRT is extraordinarily. I remember they chose the LRT back in the previous Toronto administration because it was going to be cheaper and quicker to put up than subways. It doesn't mean that Toronto doesn't still need more subways, but the LRT could fix and take take a load off the
and these are actually, because they're surface rails, they're a lot easier to install to create in the first place. But the challenge with them is you end up.
It's just one part.
Go on.
It's one part of the mix. Subways, buses, LRTs, the Red Rockets, the streetcars. It's one part of the mix. And so basically, it's behind schedule. It's going to cost too much money. There are regulations getting in the way. So the thing is delayed. Like, tell me any other government project that ever did get made on time and within budget. So basically, I think it is the what is it? The democracy. What's the outfit that's been pushing for it? Something democracy, democratic oversight, or something.
Yeah. I forget their name. Yeah, I mean, I can't even find it. Now I'm looking for it. I can't even find it. It would be the way, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with my brain because I was just.
It's on the tip of the tongue.
We started the show.
It's on the tip of the tongue, and you can't remember it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. In any case, the Auditor General has stepped in, and I think the Auditor General, whether it's economics or all other things, is so important. An impartial judge over materials that decide whether or not, take the arguments from both sides and determine whether or not something should, in this particular case, be revealed. And what they have done is said, yes, the government's right on some of these things, but the requesters are right on the others. So there has been there's been a release, and of course the Ford government, being like every other government, resists. So in any case, we have a little bit more window into what's going on with the the light rail system.
Yeah,
it's just something that any kind of opposition to Ford or anybody that's just doing a democracy watch can say, well, this is how come it's costing so much. This is the mistakes they've made. They can look for mistakes. They can look for problems that the government's made and criticize or even make suggestions of how they could fix it.
Yeah. And again, it's about open government more than anything else, isn't it?
Now, this is where the Ontario government says releasing them, Ontario claimed, could lead to economic harm, make it harder to enter into new contracts, and disincentivize staff from providing frank advice to politicians. If you're giving frank advice to a politician saying, no, you're going the wrong way, it's the wrong place, blah, 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 and then that's revealed who you are and why do I want to be exposed that way? There are certain things, so the Global News has also agreed only to pursue a portion of the messages between the two men to speed up the hearings. An appeal ended. And so information. So there we have it. Globe Mail was one, or the Global News was one of the outfits that are pushing for this, the Freedom of Information Act, getting these emails out. Democracy Watch, yeah. So it's Duff Conacher, the founder of the advocacy group Democracy Watch, said he believes that governments use lengthy appeal processes to slow the release of unflattering information. Obviously, every government does that. Whether it's the NDP, whether it's the Nazi Party, whatever, it's that's what they do. Yeah. So anyway,
Duff Conacher, who's the founder of that organization. Yeah.
Okay, what else do we got?
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, we're looking at. Okay, so the Europeans are coming to terms with the US about a 15% tariff on European goods entering the US. And at the moment, you've kind of got the EU president shaking hands with Donald Trump, but really, is he going to hold to that agreement?
I think he will. We've said on this show before that Trump administration was using the Overton method. The Overton method is basically put out a outrageous sort of set of conditions, and then if you reduce them over a period of time, it looks a lot better. If the Trump government, you can see some parts of the wisdom of the, though I don't agree with it, but the wisdom that Trump is using here and his administrators are using. If they had come up in the beginning saying we're looking at a 15% tariff, everybody would have flipped out, and it would be hard to negotiate. They'd be trying to reduce from that. So the Trump administration has come to the conclusion that 15% is what they want. That is the tariff that the American consumer could probably tolerate from European goods. So what they do is the Overton method is to sort of really exaggerate where they are. Yeah. So they say, okay, we're going to do 35, 100%. I mean, it didn't work with China, but it has worked with the other countries. So what they do is they say, we're going to slap a massive tariff on you and go like that. Now, Europeans aren't stupid, and they know this is the Overton process that they're using. But when you get to a point where it's 15%, which would have been thought to be outrageous if they started at that point, they settle at that point. But there's a number of reasons why, even though the Europeans are not stupid and they know that they've been played by the Overton process, that they have to settle for the 15% just to stop the unsettling effects of the economy. Now, one of the Overton things, which was really stomach turning for me for a while, when they were arguing when an abortion could happen, those who put out their position that a baby or a child up to 2 or 3 months was not a human being, just like the unborn child in a mother's womb, they argued was not a real human. So they put out, to their bad effect, they put out the position that parents could destroy the life of a newborn baby because they said it wasn't a real human. It still needed total care from its mother, particularly. And that was so that they could get what they really wanted, was abortion up to 6 months pregnancy. It backfired on them terribly because it revolted people completely. But that's typical Overton. If you want 6 months, you say you can actually abort a baby after it's born, basically, and you stick to that position and you make hard arguments for it. So when it's reduced to 6 months to where you want it, somewhere where you really want it, it sounds like
but again,
we really escaped that. Now,
but again, it's similar to a union going in and saying we want 35% pay rise when actually you want 15.
No, that's a small one. You overbid. That's different from Overton process. The Overton process is to get a position that's extreme, and then have a lot of evidence and a lot of data to tell you why that's a good position. And then when you are threatened with something outrageous like a 30 or 40% tariff, when you get 15%, you think, wow, that's not so bad. We really got out of it. But if the U.S. has started at 15, they may have got 10. So the European Union and Trump does have more cards than all the other ones because of the market of the United States.
Well, European Union,
when they come along and they give, and then the tariff rate is 15%. And remember, this is what I think the Trump administration honestly thinks that the American consumer could handle.
Yeah.
The
European Union is actually a fairly strong trading partner, but of course, a lot of the stuff in the European Union actually is self-focused rather than traded to the US. It's traded to within the European Union. That's where the free trade zone exists within Europe. That's what UK is missing out on right now, is that free trade zone within Europe. And
yes, and it reduced the UK economy by 20%.
Yeah,
by getting out of by doing the Brexit thing.
Yeah, absolutely, it did. Yeah.
Now, so that's I wouldn't say it's the genius move. It's strictly the Overton method. But Trump did it. Trump's administration did it very well because it has. No, I'm not saying it's a good deal or anything. I'm not supporting it. I'm just saying the strategy was typical Overton strategy, and you can do that if you have the power, and the American economy was that power.
Yeah.
And what did the Europeans give up? The Europeans are not charging tariffs on American stuff, are they?
Yeah. Well, the other question about it is, if you think about it, in most countries in the world, sales tax is about 10 to 15%. So what you've got here is a second sales tax.
Well, basically for the American consumer. So this works a little bit in like Trump administration was in a very advantageous situation. They could pick apart the different countries in the European Union and make separate trade deals with each different country and really unsettle the EU. This is an European Union bloc. It is the second largest collective economy in the world.
Exactly.
because it's a collection of countries. So this is a unified. This keeps the European Union unified. It has one set of rules for them all. So the Trump administration really played to their advantages. They have a huge market. That's their leverage. Plus the fact that they could unsettle the EU this way or that. The EU right now, of course, is having its own growth difficulties, and the EU has had is trying to
losing UK was a big problem. The Europeans might not say it, but it was a big problem. It was a big problem for the UK to leave, and it was another big problem to lose the UK from the European perspective.
Well, we see the UK made a separate deal anyway. Yeah. So I think right now we're going to get
made a deal that was 15% as well, I believe.
Yeah, they had a different deal, and anyway, that was kind of a misnomer because that deal had been already being negotiated for 6 years prior to this.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was just kind of putting the
ink on the paper, really.
So the big question here is, and Trump admin has actually played it well because they have delayed these deals. And by delaying them, they will delay most of the effect on the increased prices of things until after the next midterm election. I think that's part of their strategy. It takes a while. For the first little while, in order to keep their markets, the Europeans or the Chinese or the Japanese will try to eat some of the costs of the tariffs and then just slowly introduce them to the consumer, because they don't want the consumer to go away. Yeah. But what's going to happen here is what happened the last time when Trump put tariffs on. And let's take the example of Korean washing machines. He put a big tariff on Korean washing machines, among other things. And what happened was they went up 25%. So what happens typically in tariffs is the competitors put their prices up 20%. So the Korean washing machine comes into the country, and it is now 25% more than the competitors. But so that's supposed to help the competitors, the washing machines that are made in the United States. But what really happens is the ones that are made in the United States go up about 20%. Yeah. Because there's this range, they can make a lot more money. If you go get a Samsung washing machine and it's 5% less, it's still less. There's no way that the American washing machines are going to keep theirs at 25% less, because there's so much room in there to make more profit. This typically happens with tariffs everywhere. We found that with cars and other items now that are coming in that are being charged tariffs, that their domestic competition raises their prices as well. They don't keep them low.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that kind of. Okay. I am kind of, don't know I've got anything to add to that,
No, but that's the end of the show.
This is the kind of deal we're going to see dealing up. Ultimately, we're going to see. It's true we can't avoid the tariffs, and ultimately we've got to come up with deals like this ourselves.
Yeah, I got to thank Donald J. Trump for uniting our country, to show us, not have anything on his heart, but he has shown how vulnerable we are and how we need to be united as a nation. How we have to really get our head out of the sand and to start making practical decisions that will help the average person, and that means building a strong economy that serves the middle class. And I would just like to point it. Okay, go ahead.
And that strengthening that economy has got to work for the whole of Canada.
Yeah. Now, something we didn't mention here, which we could get into tomorrow, and as I do at the end of every show, I say, don't forget Gaza. Well, right now, the
We've got an
international
article on that, which we can cover tomorrow.
the international community has finally forced Israel to bring in foods. Now, we've seen this before at different aspects of this war, where Israel is being shamed into sending food in. They're doing it again. There are airdrops being started again by the, I think it's Qatar, or maybe it's the UAE. In any case, trucks and everything are going in to, and the Israelis say that, it's Hamas and criminal gangs that are stopping all this food from going in. You know what? The IDF and the Israeli government can have extraordinarily precision attacks in Iran, super incredible military gains against Hezbollah and against Iran, and yet they can't feed a starving population that lives in a strip of land that's 25 miles long and 5 miles wide.
Yeah.
Anyway, there is hope. As little as it is, there is hope.
All right.
Don't forget Gaza.